now available in paperback and e-readers. Spellbound, A Darker Shade of Black. Get your copy today at your favorite online bookseller. One of my viewers wanted to know what the prospects were going to be for employment for the heterosexual black man and what the overall job market would be like for heterosexual black men in the year 2030. Now, we are 6 years away from the change of the decade from the 2020s to the 2030s. However, when it comes to the prospects for employment and the job market, when it comes to heterosexual black men, they have remained the same ever since the days that President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. And when it comes to the prospects for employment for the heterosexual black man and the job market, that whole environment has been a hostile one ever since black men were given their freedom by President Lincoln with the Emancipation Proclamation, and we went from being slaves to being free black men. And those prospects, again, remain slim to none, because when it comes to the overall system of white supremacy, they don't want to see a value in a black man's labor. So when a black man enters the job market, he has to know that he's going into an environment where he's behind enemy lines. And with him being behind enemy lines, he has to understand that if he does get that opportunity to work at a job, he's not going to be welcome at that job, and he's not going to be seen as somebody there that the employer values or appreciates. No, when it comes to the overall job market as related to the system of white supremacy, they do not value the black man on the job, and they don't value having a black man in their company at all. No, oftentimes when they hire black men, it's usually for jobs that none of the white men want or the non-black men want, or it's jobs that are just deemed to be too dangerous for the white and non-black men to be a part of, or just jobs that are just deemed to be ones that are considered undesirable or socially unacceptable, such as a janitor or any sort of job that requires dirty work. These are the only jobs that they want to give a heterosexual black man, because when it comes to the system of white supremacy, they do not want to see a black man in any sort of position of power, and they don't want to see a black man in a position of power because they don't want to see that black man shatter many of the racist narratives that they have presented in their anti-black propaganda since the days of slavery, where they saw the black man as related to the Constitution as being 3/5 of a person, having less intelligence than white men, and because they believe that a black man is less than a white man and has less intelligence than a white man, they don't want to see a black man in any sort of visible position where he's out and on in the workforce and can be seen as somebody who can, one, shatter their ideas and ideals as related to the image of black men, and two, be seen as someone who is basically capable of doing work on the same level as a white or a non-black man. Now, the main reason why they don't really want, again, black men in the job market is because they don't want to see black men as somebody who's on the level as white and non-black men, and they also don't want black men in a job where he's out here working every day, because the image of a black man on the job represents competition to these white and non-black men, these white women and non-black women, and even black women, and they fear seeing the heterosexual black man in a job because he is representing actual competition, because the man was created by God to be the head and the leader, and as someone who was created to be the head and the leader, he was made to be the one who was in charge as related to things. And what white supremacy fears is that seeing a black man on the job having a position of power, this basically makes them uncomfortable. So when it comes to heterosexual black men, they really haven't wanted to hire heterosexual black men ever since the days of the Emancipation Proclamation, and that whole standard has been in place for almost 200 years. Now, yes, there are black men who do get jobs, but those jobs are basically ones that usually are, again, ones that the white supremacist doesn't want or the non-black people don't want. And those rare occurrences where you get a black man who does get one of these jobs, he's basically walking on eggshells, and he's walking on eggshells because when it comes to the job market really doesn't want to see black men in these jobs. And again, usually when they hire a black man, they usually are hiring him just for a little while until they can find somebody white or non-black to be able to fill that position. That's what I've seen from my personal experience as related to the job market. And when it comes to the job market, there's a lot of discrimination that goes on covertly. Now, overtly, what these companies will say is that they're all about diversity and inclusion passively, but aggressively what they will do is talk about diversity and inclusion, and they'll talk about diversity and inclusion by looking to hire a black woman. Yes, they will hire the black woman, one, to emasculate the black man and take him out of his position of leader and authority figure and being the breadwinner and provider. And two, they will look to, again, undermine the black man's authority as related to his community, because with the black woman being the one who's the breadwinner, this basically takes the economic power out of the black man's hands and puts it in the black woman's hands, which ensures that the white supremacist will continue to maintain economic dominance over the black community, because the black woman is a consumer and not a producer. And because she's a consumer and not a producer, this leads to her being the de facto head of household, and 97% of black dollars leaving the black community, and making sure that that 97% plus the 3% that goes to the black pastor makes sure that the black community does not build any sort of wealth. And again, this is another reason why they don't want the heterosexual black man on the job in their job market any day from 1865 all the way to 1930 and 2030 onward. Don't want him there because they fear, one, competition, and two, they fear black men building wealth. And they fear building wealth because they fear if a black father is established as a head of household and creates a patriarchal household, what he will do is teach male life skills to his son as related to building wealth, and he will vet the men that his daughter gets involved with. So keeping the black man unemployed allows the white supremacist to maintain his economic power and enables him to be able to live a middle-class lifestyle as related to the rich wealth that comes from black communities. Now, when it comes to black communities, they don't mind black bootlicks and black buffers being rich. And again, there's a big difference between rich and wealthy. And rich is where a person, yes, they have lots of money, but they're not passing that money on. Moreover, they're not passing on male life skills or male survival skills to their son, and they're not vetting the men that their daughters are getting involved with. And again, all of this has foundation in the job market, because if the black man can't find full-time employment, then he cannot go out here and build wealth in his community. And that's where the white supremacist wants to, again, sabotage the black man in the job market. And it doesn't matter if you have multiple college degrees, they just don't want a black man on their job. And they don't want a black man on their job because, again, a black man represents actual competition. competition for economic resources that these individuals who've compromised and colluded with white supremacy cannot receive a benefit from. And when they see a black person looking to have a mindset as related to building, they don't really want that black person on the job, whether it be a black man or a black woman. Now, when it comes to employment for the black man, he cannot go out here and think to even enter corporate America because corporate America is hostile to him, and corporate America is hostile to the black man, again, because they fear heterosexual black men being direct competition for economic resources. They fear heterosexual black men looking to build families with black women, and they fear heterosexual black men looking to build wealth in black communities. They fear the power of a black dollar that is contained in a black community, and they fear that if a black man has a job at a white corporation and he's looking to take his dollars and build his black community, that money will not come back to the white community. So they try to cut the black man off at the knees with passive-aggressive discriminatory policies. And these policies, again, they are covert, not overt. They are not going to openly say, we don't hire black people. But what they will do aggressively is establish something I call the HR brick wall. And the human resource brick wall is designed to keep heterosexual black men from being able to get jobs. It's designed to keep heterosexual black men out of the job market, even though they are qualified for jobs. A heterosexual black man can be qualified for a job, but oftentimes what they will do is use their buffers at the human resource department, whether it be white feminist, black feminist women, or just bootlicking black men, and they will use them to meet their diversity quotas and say, yes, we hired minorities, but aggressively those minorities are working to keep heterosexual black men at the gate by being gatekeepers, and these gatekeepers are again deliberately put there to keep heterosexual black men from being able to get work, even though they are qualified for the job. Now, when it comes to these gatekeepers, what they do is, again, they arbitrarily use these so-called qualifications to keep black men out of the job. Yes, a black man can apply for that job, but what they will do is go out here and make excuses to avoid hiring that black man. No, they will eagerly go out here and hire a white male with no education, a white female with a high school diploma, a black woman with a college degree, or a black bootlick male with a college degree. But when it comes to the heterosexual black man, they don't really want him there. And again, passively, they will meet the diversity quotas and check boxes by including people who they feel will keep their world smooth, but they work to keep the heterosexual black man out of the job market. They work to keep him out by doing things like erecting the HR brick wall, and again, passing on the resumes of qualified black men, going out here and acting really hostile towards heterosexual black men at job interviews, acting disrespectful and rude. This is what I have run into when I went out for interviews at different companies. I have run into this kind of hostility. And again, when it comes to the overall employment for black men as related to many private companies, a black man has next to no options, the same way he had next to no options during the days after the Civil War, when it came down to heterosexual black men. They could not rely on looking to get jobs because of the policies that were established after the Reconstruction, such as Jim Crow, which segregated black men and denied us opportunities at jobs, except for the lowest ones, such as the porter or the janitor, or the more dangerous jobs where a black man basically put his life on the line. And the only way a black man could find a way to make a living was usually he had to go out and start his own business. And that's how we got the black-owned businesses all throughout America. A lot of black people had to start their own businesses because they could not go to the white ones. And because they could not go to the white ones, a lot of black folks had to start businesses. And even after we got integration, what sadly happened was when it came to those black people, a lot of them got spellbound and wanted to fit into the black boxes that were acceptable to white people. And as they looked to fit into the black boxes that were acceptable to white people, they left their businesses, making our job market just as bad as even before the days of the Emancipation Proclamation, because there was no support system for future brothers and sisters. And that's what we need as related to employment. We have to understand that we are not going to be able to get jobs at corporate America. No, corporate America, again, tells a lie to itself that they're all about diversity and inclusion. But if you look at many of the whole corporate hierarchies, yes, they include black women, but you don't see many heterosexual black men unless they are foreign-born from other countries like the UK, France, or Jamaica, or other countries. And that is done by design because they don't want a foundational black American man on the job. And they don't want a foundational black American man on the job because, again, they fear that black men going out here and building wealth. They fear that black men being direct competition to them. And they fear that heterosexual black men being able to have money, which is economic power. So what they do is put on this whole symbolic image to make it look like they are for black people. But in actuality, they are, again, including people passively and programming them to work aggressively to keep heterosexual black men out of the job market. And again, want to force to keep heterosexual black men out of the job market because they really don't want heterosexual black men to be on the job. They don't want heterosexual black men to be full-time employed. They don't want heterosexual black men taking resources to build their own community. No, they don't want that at all. And what they do is, again, work aggressively to keep the black man out of the job market, whether it be, again, 1865, 1930, or even 2030, and with nothing changing for the black man has to understand that his survival does not rely on that job market. And again, employment prospects for black men who are straight and have their heads on is next to slim to none. And if he even gets a job, he cannot really rely on that job the same way a white man or a white woman or a non-black woman can. No, that black man who's on that job, whether it be any time in American history, has to understand that he is there basically walking on eggshells, and he can be fired for any reason, ranging from a simple thing as them not having any everything bagels at the deli to them not having dark roast coffee, or the company basically a white guy or a white female making a mistake. What they will do is fire that black man for the least little thing, and that basically makes it where a heterosexual black man is usually, when he's on a job, walking on eggshells. And some of these guys, in order to cope with all of that tension in their life, some of them basically, again, turn to vices to be able to deal with the stress, such as smoking or drinking, and others go out here and start bootlicking and brown nosing. They become terrified because, again, you feel like you're walking on eggshells basically every day, never knowing when one of these white or non-black bosses, or even one of these black female bosses, is going to have a bad day. And even though you're doing quality work for that company, you could be fired at any time, fired based on the feelings of someone. And again, that is the state of the job market for the heterosexual black man and the overall job market going on in this country, because this is the standard established by white supremacy, established way after the Emancipation Proclamation because many racists, again, have contempt for black people for having their freedom, have contempt for black people because they believe black people are beneath them, and believe that the black man is the least competent man. So when it comes to employment and the job market, a black man has to go out here and try to just hold on to whatever job he can get. Again, I talk about why so many black men are underemployed in a previous video. Many black men right now are taking jobs far beneath their education level if they can get them, because they're hard to get. And they're hard to get because many people have a very paternalistic view of black people, especially black men, thinking black men are not intelligent, thinking black men are not competent, thinking black men are not capable of doing a job. And a lot of times when it comes to heterosexual black men, what many of these employers want to see is not this man being qualified on the merits and being able to express himself in an interview. No, what they want to see is a black man on his knees, begging and groveling and pleading for a job, begging for a boss to give him a chance instead of letting his record and reputation stand. No, they don't trust that black man or respect him at all for looking to work like a man. No, they want to see him in the same position his slave ancestors were, groveling and begging for whatever scraps that he is given and taking whatever is given to him. And that's the sad state of affairs when it comes to employment for heterosexual black men, is that, again, nothing has changed since the days that we got our freedom in slavery. Yes, we got our freedom, but we don't have the economic freedom to be able to work the way we want to work or work where we want to work. No, even with the economy so-called doing well, when it comes to heterosexual black men, we are the last called, we are the last hired, and usually the first fired. This is what I ran into from experience. And people will let your resume basically just hang out there. They'll be desperate for workers, say that they really need to get workers, but the whole thing is they'll leave that black man's application in limbo and look hopefully for some non-black or foreign person to fill that job. They'll take a foreigner before they take a heterosexual black man who entered the country illegally. And when it comes to the foreigner, what they will do is start talking money with the person who entered the country illegally, who they could not even hire legally. But when it comes to the heterosexual black man, what they will do is talk about how the heterosexual black man has to volunteer and work for free, never seeing how racist that is. You got this foreigner who entered the country illegally, and you want to talk money with him, tangible cash. But when it comes to the heterosexual black man who legitimately earns his college degrees, goes out here and has work experience, don't want to talk about money with him. And again, that's something that carried over from slavery, that shows how racist the job market is. It shows how racist it is because you want to talk about the black man gotta work and give you work for free, but the person who enters the country illegally, you see the value of their work. And again, this is the type of job market that black people and black men especially have been dealing with for years. When it comes to the heterosexual black man, we deal with nothing but hostility as related to the job market, and nothing has really changed. Yes, we've got a couple of black professionals here and there, by the grace of God, who managed to miraculously survive, but the things that they had to compromise in order to survive were really sad. And again, the whole overall job market for black men in 2030 will be the same as it was, again, since 1865. And again, the black man is not considered welcome because nobody values the black man's labor, even though it was the black man's labor that built this country. Even though it was the black man's labor that built America, they don't value the black man's labor to pay him for it. And that's why we have all this controversy over reparations. They don't want to pay black people for their labor. Again, don't want to pay for the labor of our slave ancestors, don't want to pay for denying black people an equal economic opportunity during the days of Jim Crow, when the Ku Klux Klan terrorized black businesses and burnt black businesses down and burnt down the homes of wealthy black people like they did with towns like Rosewood and Black Wall Street to keep their world smooth, and the current and ongoing discrimination that black men like myself have suffered over the years as we tried to enter the job market. This job market has not changed. It is extremely hostile to heterosexual black men, and any black father who loves his son, what he's going to do is going to try to get that boy on a road to entrepreneurship. A road to entrepreneurship, because you cannot get one of these jobs even if you go out here and do everything right. You cannot even think about considering getting one of these jobs and think you're gonna keep it for years. No, what you've got to do is be able to accept that when it comes to these jobs, you're gonna have to put a period at the end of things and look for employment in alternative sources such as your own business, because they don't want to see intelligent, responsible, capable, heterosexual black men on the job. No, that sets off many of the whites and non-blacks, because they want to coast in the system of white supremacy. And the faster you tell your son that he needs to go out and start working on being an entrepreneur, you're going to help that son grow, because he won't be having to deal with the pressure and the stress of trying to fit into a job market and try to deal with these obstacles in front of him, such as the HR brick wall, which basically is impenetrable, where he will be sitting there watching an application sit there for years, like I saw when I recently went to the Burlington website. I had applied for a couple of jobs there, and the applications were basically just sitting there for a year or so, and it just showed me how basically nobody really cared. I mean, I put in applications at this company and they're just hanging in limbo with no contact for an interview, no contact for a call. Nobody even looks like they read those applications. And again, shows me how little regard they have for black male workers, black men who again are intelligent and can do the work. We have to go out here and beg and plead for janitor and other jobs in maintenance. Well, and even though we've got degrees in business and economics and all of these other degrees, we've got to go out here and beg and plead for a job. Meanwhile, the white guy or the migrant who enters the country illegally, he's offered a job within coming off the boat, but the black man basically is told that he's not somebody they want to hire, and nothing is going to change. But the only thing we can change is how we deal with this job market, by walking completely away from it. And we have to walk completely away from this job market, because you go where you're welcome. And when it comes to America's Western job market, it's clear that heterosexual black men are just not welcome in that job market. So when it comes to black men have to understand that your employment prospects have not changed in over 100 to 200 years, and with them not really changing, you've got to find another way to make a living legitimately, because when it comes to these jobs say help wanted, but they don't want the help of heterosexual black men. Now, this was a video requested by a viewer, and if you want to request a video, you can send a donation for a minimum of $15 to the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box, and to PayPal and Cash App. And if you want to pick up some of my positive black fiction and help me continue to be able to build the SJS Direct Imprint, you can find the books of the SJS Direct Imprint on Amazon.com and other online booksellers like Draft to Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Support black-owned and black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.